Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real, and I'm your host, Bob Gallagher. And joining me in the studio today, we have a very special guest, a real estate agent with Lair Realty Partners, Tom Vargeletis. Did I get that right, Tom?
That's right.
All right, good. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, Bob.
So we asked you to come in today and talk about, a lot of things, frankly. Why don't we start with your new book that's going to be coming out later this summer, your first year in real estate. Why don't you tell us, what experiences led to you deciding to write a book, and give us a little bit of info on what the book is about?
Sure. So, like you said, the title is called Your First Year in Real Estate because it's written for new agents in their first year.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I went with your first year specifically was because my first year when I got licensed was a complete and total disaster. It was a total failure. Production-wise, I did okay.
Mm-hmm.
From the time that I got my license, within about 3 months, I closed about $1 million worth of real estate,
Which is a great start.
Yeah, it's above average for brand new people. But when I started, I was working for a company, and the broker was great. He was awesome, but it was a small private company, not a ton of resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really have any training or, no one that I could really call and ask questions. And I had zero sales experience
Mm-hmm.
before I started. So, I had just come from a government job, and I was used to getting paid every 15 days,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my limit on spending was my paycheck, right? And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as the money started rolling in from real estate, I just increased my expenses. So I got all this money, I closed all these deals, but then I spent it all.
Mm-hmm.
I blew it all. And then after I'd sold everyone that I knew a house who was looking at the time, I was looking at no business,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. And for the rest of the year, I didn't sell a single thing,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. I didn't even get a rental. It was really stressful financially, and at the end of it, I kept trying to think of how could I turn this into a positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what motivated me to write the book. Is I took all of those failures. I really did everything wrong that could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like down payments on auto loans for brand new cars,
Mm-hmm.
not even asking or negotiating on the price or anything like that, buying expensive clothing and appliances for no reason
Mm-hmm.
other than the money was burning a hole in my pocket. So I took those experiences, I put them together in the book, and afterwards, after this first year that I had got in touch with a mentor. I had switched companies with a lot more resources and training, mm-hmm. and figured out what I was doing wrong and why I had that problem. So then I took those kind of successes afterwards as well. So, it's like tips and tricks and a little bit of my experiences on what not to do, mm-hmm. and why you shouldn't do it from my firsthand experience.
Excellent. And the book is coming out when exactly?
It's being edited right now, so I would say, a couple more weeks, maybe a couple months. It should be coming out by the end of the summer.
Oh, good. So not too far away.
Mm-mm.
And it'll be available on Amazon as well?
Yes, it'll be going up for sale on Amazon.
Excellent. Then why don't we talk about, since we're on real estate anyways, why don't we talk about, life as a realtor today, what the market's like, what it's like working with buyers and sellers in such a competitive market?
Life as a realtor, it depends on your work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, it's going to be a little stressful for those agents who aren't spending a lot of time prospecting. It's going to be very stressful for them because it's really hard to get listings, mm-hmm. in today's market. And buyers are not having a good experience because we hear this time and time again that there's low inventory. There's not enough listings on the market for buyers that want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing a lot of multiple offers, and for every one offer that gets accepted, there's a bunch of other buyers that just got really disappointed. So, for some agents, it's really, really tough to get a deal together. But there's always those super agents out there who are just getting listings and getting clients left and right. They don't feel a shift in the economy like that. So mm-hmm. I would say the average is it's a little more stressful than normal.
Right. And what about for the buyers and sellers in today's market?
It's an awesome seller's market.
Mm-hmm.
So, sellers, like I said, they're getting multiple offers. So sometimes you're seeing it going over asking price in a lot of marketplaces. But on the flip side, after you sell the house, where are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
For those sellers who are actually going to be moving out of state or going to a place where real estate is much, much cheaper, they're getting an awesome deal. But if you're moving across town, if you're upsizing, downsizing, if your office just relocated to another town, and for them it's going to be a little difficult. And segueing into buyers, buyers are having a pretty tough time. Even buyers with really rock solid pre-approvals, sometimes even cash buyers are having trouble in this market because there is so much competition for each listing as it comes on.
Right. It is tough. And I know you were saying earlier, for every offer that gets accepted, you've got a lot of people that are disappointed. And I think I heard a stat last week that it's getting pretty close. And I don't know if this is nationally or just mass, but it's basically 8 people want to buy every property for sale. I mean, you're competing with,
right.
at least 7 other families that want to buy the house you want to buy. That gets awful tough.
Yeah. We're seeing an upturn in the rental market, too, because of that.
Yeah, we were talking before we got started today about how crazy the rents are. And it's not even like Boston anymore. I remember years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I worked with somebody that was renting a studio in Brighton for $1,400 a month, and I thought how insane that was. And now you're seeing equally insane things out here. I mean, studios in Worcester going for $1,300-$1,400 a month. It's just crazy.
Yeah, there's so much competition for the purchase of the property now that buyers are getting frustrated and giving up. Before we started, I was talking about I had a buyer client who just said, you know what, this is crazy. I'm just going to re-up on my lease. They're like, that's it. We're going to have to stay.
And you said you had somebody that 2 years ago decided to stay out and then got back in recently.
Yes, this was a potential buyer client. But he lived out in the Cambridge area. And he was looking at the market, and he's saying, no, prices aren't really right for us to move right now. But at that time, he could afford something, not in Cambridge, but thereabouts. And now he's completely priced out of his own market. He's looking, because now he has to move.
Right.
And he's looking very, very far out.
Yeah.
So he's really kicking himself for hesitating.
Right. And I know you're seeing it on your side as a real estate agent. We're seeing it on our side, on the financing side, where people are kind of getting to the point where they're like, why bother? I'll just call it quits and I'll go back to it in a year. And what I've been telling people is, you mentioned the same thing. You don't know what the market's going to do. A good bet is it's not going to reverse direction in a year's time. What we have right now is a massive shortage. There's not a lot going on that's going to satisfy that shortage. So waiting is most likely going to cost you more in terms of purchase price. And, if the economy keeps improving, rates are going to keep going up. You're going to end up spending a lot more money for a lot less house.
Yeah, and sometimes what buyers aren't thinking of is like, okay, I'm going to wait for the economy to come back down. Well, if the economy turns down again, like it did in that crash, maybe not that extreme when the bubble burst a few years ago. But, when the economy comes back down, it will for everyone. So will you have the same job or the same salary when that happens? Are you going to be able to really afford this property when you could do it now?
Right.
So
a lot of reasons to buy and not give up. Not a lot, unless you have the staying power, a place to live for the next 10 years. Chances are, timing a downturn is, it's next to impossible.
It is impossible. Well, some very few people can see something like that coming because they're so close to, like certain industries. But usually you don't know when you've hit a peak or when you've hit a valley until after it's passed, and you're looking back and you're saying, oh, that was a low point. Right.
I remember in 2009 and 10, people were still saying, no, I'm not going to buy yet. It's not the bottom. And in 2011 and 12, no, it's not that time yet. I think prices are going to go lower. Then when they started skyrocketing, it's like, oh, they're going to come back down. I'm not going to buy now either. And then here we are, and now they can't afford anything.
Serial renters, yeah, it's tough. Well, that's where the concept of dollar cost averaging comes into play. If you're an investor, that's a nice little lesson I try to give everyone when we have that conversation.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Dollar cost averaging. It's an investment concept where you keep buying no matter what happens, whether the market goes up or the market goes down. You just continue to grow your portfolio, and in the long run, if you're making a smart decision buying, in this case for real estate, buying a decent property, good location, you're always going to get the value out of it. Even if you overpay on this year or underpay on that year, at the end, your average value is there. It's good.
Yeah, it all evens out over time. That's a good way to look at it. I want to give out your contact info to anybody that might be looking to buy or sell. Again, it's Tom Vargeletis, and it's 978-906-1076. The number again is 978-906-1076. Why don't we talk about commercial property too? We had a brief discussion about that before we started today. All the craziness of the residential market seems to kind of be carrying over to commercial now as well.
Yes. So I'm not principally or primarily a commercial agent, but I do follow the market, and it's really amazing to see how fast and how widely like commercial properties are growing and being built, and how far out they're expanding west. The 495 used to be like the edge of the universe as far as commercial property is concerned, right? So, typically vacancy rates or on 495 southbound side, inside the belt on the east side of the highway, you'll see like, you always see some vacancies, like there's some empty commercial spots for whatever reason, and that was just the name of the game. You couldn't lease it all. But now, not only are vacancy rates at an all-time low, but there's new buildings being built, and huge corporations are moving into onto 495. Like they're getting, multi-million-dollar, deca-million-dollar like companies are getting priced out of Boston, right? And all that activity and all that money is kind of spilling over the side outside of the 495 belt. So on the northbound side, on the western side of 495, you're seeing more commercial developments, lower vacancy rates, and you have people coming out as far as Worcester and Fitchburg, like huge companies doing, residential developments, building businesses, just doing their thing because they can't afford it to do it where they used to.
Right. Yeah, because Boston's become hyper-competitive across the board. Yeah, you hear about office rents in Cambridge topping $80 or $90 a square foot. And you have to wonder
ridiculous.
how much longer that can continue.
Yeah,
I remember when expensive in Boston used to be less than half of that. And I guess that's the result is eventually people are like, well, forget it. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. I can get twice as much space for half the money 30 minutes outside the city. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, exactly. People are kind of rationalizing it like, well, yeah, for an extra few minutes drive, I'm going to save so much money. It's definitely worth the gas.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're cutting your bill in half essentially. We're even seeing the same thing now. If you look at the 128 belt, like the Waltham area out to the 495 belt, again, you're looking at basically half price.
Yeah.
So why not? I mean, it's only.
crazy.
The drive from 495 to 128 is a heck of a lot better than 128 into Boston. So why not do it, right? Why don't we also talk a little bit about Layer 3D, which is a photography company that you started inside of Layer Real Estate.
Yes, it's a photography company, a real estate photography company. I had started actually before I joined Layer, and there was some rebranding. So we call it Layer 3D, and it's real estate photography, but it's also virtual tours and floor plans, and then we have these. It's really amazing. What we can do is think of like a dollhouse that you buy for your kids, right? Where like the back wall is off, you can see into the house. We can generate a virtual dollhouse where you can twist it, turn it, look at it from a bird's eye view or a floor plan view, and you can see in really fine detail the house as it is, and kind of in this virtual 3-dimensional shape. And at any point you can click in or tap in if you're on your phone or your iPad. And you can basically go into the house, and this is not a video, it's not a slideshow. You can drag and look around, look up, down, left, right, in any direction, any way that you want to, and then you can tap or click around, and it's almost as if you're standing in the house walking around, right? Like that's cool. The kind of control you have with this kind of a virtual tour. They're also virtual reality ready. So if you've got those, Google Cardboard, Samsung VR, there's a few other companies that like those goggles that you just slide your phone into. You can do that with one of these listings, and you put the headset on, and it's like you're standing there in the house and looking,
cool.
just like you're standing there in the house and looking around. It's amazing.
Wow. And does it take a lot? I mean, that machine's got to be pretty big, right?
Well, it fits in my trunk. I mean, relative to other cameras, yes, it's big. But it's not like a monster. It's one person can carry it around.
So you don't need a forklift to get it in the house or anything.
Luckily, no.
That's good. That make it probably a lot more difficult to get those things done. That's really cool, and that's available to all the realtors inside of Lair Real Estate, right?
Yes, Lair agents, because it's a Lair branded company. We're offering them special pricing.
Mm-hmm.
It's by the square foot. It's not within a range like 1,000 to 2,000 square feet. It's not like anything like that. It's just by the square foot of the area scanned. Lair agents are getting a really special price.
Cool.
For any agents outside of that, it would be 10 cents per square foot. So any agent is actually welcome to use this service.
Excellent. That's excellent. And I'm going to give out your contact info again. It's Tom Vargeletis, and it's 978-906-1076. Thanks for joining us on the show today. I'm really looking forward to seeing your book coming out.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.